All right, so get this. We're headed to feudal Japan, folks. Feudal Japan. For this deep dive, we're talking Assassin's Creed Shadows. And yeah, after that Gamescom presentation, I know the hype is real.
Yeah, they definitely brought the goods for that presentation. A lot to unpack there.
Absolutely, which is why we're here, right? We got our hands on that technical preview from Vandal, and there's a lot to dig into.
And I think it's fair to say Ubisoft, they made some pretty bold claims about the visuals in particular.
Oh, they weren't messing around. Better than any Assassin's Creed before it, at least visually, that's what they said.
Yeah, and they even used that word, photorealistic.
They did. They really went there.
Which, as someone who's, worked with this kind of tech, that's a loaded term, right? I mean, aiming for visuals that are almost impossible to tell apart from real life. Think about it. Like, the way light hits every surface, the tiny details on a character's face, it's incredibly hard to do well. You need serious processing power and incredibly smart programming to make that happen.
Yeah, you're not just talking about, like, slapping on a new texture pack.
No, not at all. This is serious stuff.
Okay, so no pressure then, Ubisoft, right? But here's the thing. They're sticking with their Anvil engine for this one, which isn't exactly brand new. So are we really going to see a huge leap in graphics? Or is it kind of like, we've seen this before?
That's the question, right? And it's true, Anvil's been around for a while. It's been the engine behind the series for a while. But Ubisoft is hinting at some major upgrades, not just like, a fresh coat of paint. This Vandal preview, it talks about ray tracing in global illumination.
Okay, break that down for me. What does that even mean for us playing the game?
So basically it means the light in the game will behave more realistically, okay? It'll bounce off surfaces, cast more accurate shadows. So as you're parkouring across those rooftops, you'll really feel like you're experiencing those sweeping Japanese landscapes in a new way. With the light filtering through trees, reflecting off every surface. It's all about making that world believable.
Now, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
And they're also, I think I read this right, they've got a new geometry system in this one, too.
They do, which is huge. A more powerful geometry system means they can create way more detailed environments, much more complex than before. So think finer details on the buildings, more realistic foliage, things that really make the world feel, lived in, like it's a real place.
So it's not just about these big landscapes, it's about the small details, too.
Exactly. The devil's in the details, as they say.
Love that. And speaking of details, I have to say, I love that part in the preview about how characters can interact with lights and doors more realistically. It sounds like you could really use those interactions strategically,
Oh, for sure.
Like, that's the kind of stuff that really pulls me into a game. You know what I mean?
It's all about immersion, right? Previous Assassin's Creed games, they've played with this a little bit, but if Shadows really lets you use the environment in new ways, especially when it comes to combat and stealth, that's where things get really interesting. Just imagine, you're sneaking through the shadows, the light's filtering through the trees thanks to the ray tracing. You're going to feel like you're really there in feudal Japan. And it's not just about these, static environments either. Remember those incredible set pieces they're known for?
Oh, yeah. Some of my favorite gaming moments right there.
Right. So imagine this. Okay. You're in the middle of one of these epic set pieces, hiding from guards, right? And suddenly, the skies open up. A total downpour starts. And when I say downpour, I mean you look up and you see individual raindrops, like actually hitting the ground. Like you see them trickling down between the roof tiles, that kind of thing.
Wait, are you serious? They're going that detailed?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Shadows is going for that level of detail with this new dynamic weather system.
Rain between the tiles. That's insane. Like how...
It's wild, right? It's easy to underestimate how much work goes into that. We're not talking about some pre-rendered cutscene here.
No.
This is real-time, like actual fluid simulation happening in the game.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about making things look pretty then.
Exactly. It has gameplay implications, too.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. How so?
Well, think about it. Rain, it becomes more than just a visual effect, right? It can affect your stealth, make the ground slippery, even change the way enemies behave. Remember how Rain in Unity, how it made those cobblestone streets like a nightmare to run on?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So imagine that, but like taken to a whole new level, where every puddle, every sudden downpour could actually like change how you approach a situation.
Now, that is what I'm talking about. Those little unscripted moments, they can really make a game feel alive.
Totally.
And speaking of things that make the game world feel real, What about destructible environments? I'm picturing like epic sword fights with bamboo splintering, paper doors flying open.
Yeah.
Tell me they're going all in on this.
You are definitely on the right track there. Vandal actually mentioned destructible bamboo and paper doors specifically.
No way. Okay, so what does that mean, gameplay-wise?
Well, to me, it screams potential, like imagine the possibilities for environmental interaction. And this is a really cool part. Programming realistic destruction, it is incredibly difficult. Like you're not just making things break, you're making them break believably every single time.
Huh. Never thought about it like that.
It's true. So if they can really pull this off, if Shadows can do destruction well, it could completely change how we experience this world.
It really would. It's like the difference between a movie set and a real place.
Exactly. And then think about how you might use that, Like you could use a crumbling wall to create a new pathway. Or even set a trap for an enemy.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. The possibilities for stealth and combat, if you can manipulate the environment like that, I mean, it could be amazing. If Ubisoft gets those physics right, it's going to be epic.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind, and this leads perfectly into my last big tech question.
Right.
Ray tracing.
The big one. Everyone's talking about it.
It is everywhere these days. So break it down for me. What does it actually mean for Assassin's Creed Shadows? How will it change how we play?
It all comes down to light and shadow, but like on a level we've never seen before in Assassin's Creed. Imagine, okay, you're sneaking through a forest, sunlight is filtering through the leaves realistically, you can see your target up ahead. Or picture the way the shadows from like a pagoda, they shift across a courtyard. You could use that as cover, disappear into the darkness.
Okay, now that is what I'm talking about, that classic Assassin's Creed cat and mouse gameplay. But let's be real for a sec. Can our systems even handle all this? I mean, this is starting to sound pretty demanding, tech-wise.
That's the million-dollar question these days, right? I mean, we see these big leaps in graphics, but can our rigs keep up? And, Ubisoft seems to know that. They're actually giving players some control over this with, like, a toggle for performance or fidelity.
Interesting. So you can choose what's more important to you.
Exactly. If your rig can handle it, crank that ray tracing up, experience the full visual impact. But if not, no worries. Dial it back, you'll get smoother performance. It's up to you. Your priorities.
Now that options are always good.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, even with all this amazing tech, it all comes back to the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, will Assassin's Creed Shadows actually live up to the hype?
Well, we've seen a lot of big promises before, haven't we? And sometimes the execution, it doesn't quite hit the mark. But I have to say, I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about this one.
Yeah, I hear that. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of these big presentations, right? So for you, what's the real test? What's going to elevate Shadows from just a visually stunning game to something truly special?
For me, it comes down to this. How do all these technical advancements, how do they actually translate to the gameplay? Does that dynamic weather, does it add those new layers of strategy? Do the destructible environments really change the way we approach a fight? Does it all come together to create a world that truly, and I mean truly feels alive and responsive to the player?
You're absolutely right. It's all about how it feels to play. And Assassin's Creed at its best, it's always been about that. It's about getting lost in those rich historical settings. And based on what we've seen, Shadows has the potential to be incredibly immersive.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but November 15th can't get here soon enough for me.
I'm right there with you. Just imagine a world so detailed, so reactive, that it actually feels like it's alive around you. Maybe, just maybe, this is the Assassin's Creed we've all been waiting for, the one that finally delivers on that promise.